Hello and welcome to another week of the Coach Hughes Show. Coach, you guys are coming off a loss against Augustana. How have you and your coaching staff and even your players kind of reacted to the rough start this season?
Well, there's no use crying over spilled milk, right? So for us, our process has always been get better every day, find ways to improve, get our players in the best chance to be successful, and we've maintained that. I told the players after the game, I feel like our effort's there. I feel like we've got a good attitude about our team. I feel like they play together. A couple of things that will be important going forward really are, one, we've had been in opportunities to make plays, and we haven't done it all the time. And so making the play is going to be big. And I think the other thing too is, we talked about this as coaches in our staff meeting as well, and that is we know what to do. Right? They know their assignments, they know what to do. It's just now a matter of how to do it properly. And sometimes we do it that way and sometimes we don't. And all the really good teams are doing it properly, and the teams that struggle or, sometimes there's like a lack of, I don't know if it's trust or just understanding of technique and fundamentals and how to play together. I mean, whatever it is, we've got to find that chemistry. But again, I think the players, there's good football players and they care and they want to do it right. It's just a matter of getting everybody to get on the same page and then doing it consistently.
One of those good football players that you were talking about, Porter Sturm. It seems like each week we kind of mention him a little bit in some capacity. He had 150 plus yards and 2 touchdowns this last week. He's one of the top 3 or 4 guys in the NSIC in all-purpose yards. You mentioned he's a senior, he's a program guy. What makes him so special?
Well, I think he's got a high care factor is a big thing. He wants to be a good player. He wants to help the team win, and he wants to make the play. And I think those things are all important. I think he's got a strong work ethic. He pays attention to meetings. He asks the right kind of questions. And, and he's got obviously natural, ability. I mean, Porter played 6-man football coming out of high school, but he's been a strong player in this program for a long, long time as a wide receiver. I mean, I don't know how much he learned in terms of route running when he was back in high school, just because it wasn't something that he was really being asked to do. And so, he's just, he's just really, put the effort into like what needs to be done week to week and every off season. And Porter's a very good player and he's a good guy, and we're glad to have him in the program. He's a guy that we also need to continue to find ways to keep involved significantly in our offense as the season goes on.
I know we're not that far into the season, so looking in the future might not even be something on your mind. But he's a senior, and so he's going to be gone next season. How do you replace a guy like that? That's something you have to go recruit? You have to get maybe like a JUCO player or something like that? Or is there somebody on the team right now that you think could replace him?
Well, great question, and I think for us, like in terms of recruiting and building a roster, I think first thing is you always hope that there's kids in your program that you're developing to take on those roles, year after year. And so we need to get to the point where you never are in a rebuilding mode, but you're in a reloading mode, so to speak, and that's where we need to get to. So given all that, to replace Porter, I mean, it's something that the guys in our program, first thing first, those guys need to elevate their play and be ready to take on those roles. And then we got to go out and recruit in the off season, whether junior college or high school, and find players that can, fulfill the role that he has right now, in the next season and beyond. So again, I think the main thing is our guys right now, the young players in our program, those guys are the guys that we're expecting to be the next guys up in that regard at this stage. And again, if we aren't ever in a position where we can count on the next guys up, then we don't have enough depth to really be consistent and competitive. So that's my mentality regarding like recruiting and then just kind of the depth chart as a whole.
Yeah. Staying focused on the offensive side of the ball. At quarterback, you've had some injuries, you've had some troubles there, and it's not easy. And you haven't had the same starting quarterback 2 weeks in a row yet to this point. How difficult is that for the rest of the players on the offense to have a new play caller week after week?
Well, I think our players handle it fine. I think where it gets difficult is just great quarterbacks have a lot of game reps. I mean, they just understand how to play and they have the experience on the field and they've seen all the different looks that could be thrown at them. So for Lucas's part or anybody else that's playing quarterback for us, they need game reps to be a really good player. So I think it's harder for them than it is for everybody else around them, just because they want to get into some consistency and into a rhythm and a routine. So We'll see kind of what the next steps are. Isaiah, we don't know if he's going to be back this week or not. We're unsure on that. We'll find out more as the week goes on. So, again, I think it's harder for the actual quarterbacks than it is for the guys in the huddle.
On defense, on the defensive side of the ball, each week it seems like your D-backs are kind of like leading the force, and then maybe your linebackers the next week, and then your defensive line, or maybe even drive after drive. The kind of groups kind of specifically just seem to be playing at a different level than some of the other groups. How do you get them all firing on all cylinders at the same time?
Well, we talk about our pursuit often, and if our goal is to have a 91% pursuit grade. So what that means is 10 out of 11 guys are really firing every single snap. You're always going to have something that happens to somebody out there on the field, but 10 out of 11 need to be firing away. And if we do that, then we're at 91%. And if our pursuit grade is at 91%, then our feeling is that everything else that you want to have will happen and come together. So for us, I mean, it's just a matter of consistently getting that, and various positions, as you mentioned, sometimes guys are playing a little bit better than others, but aside from last week, I think our defense has been strong through the first 3 weeks of the season. We've got to get back on track this week and moving ahead.
You have Northern State coming in this week. They're sitting where you guys are, no conference wins yet. They're going to be fighting hard, trying to get that win. You guys are going to be fighting hard, trying to get that win. Their guys are more than likely going to know that this is a good chance to get that first win, and coming in with high emotions. On your team, for your end, do you want your team coming in with high emotions? Do you want them a little bit on edge, or are you trying to kind of wind that down a little bit and keep them even keel?
Well, I think great teams and great players are always on edge. I believe that. I think if you don't have an edge to what you're doing, I think you can get beat and get beat bad. And so I always feel like you need to have an edge. Now, that being said, I think it's really important for our players this week and every week for that matter to focus on our process, not on the end result, not saying, okay, here's our chance to get this win or get this. They just need to focus on what they need to do to win as opposed to focus on winning itself. So, again, we need to be on edge and be fiery and focused, but also focused on our process as opposed to the result.
Well, you can catch Coach Hughes coaching the Beavers this Saturday at 6 p.m. at Herb Parker Stadium. Come join us and watch the team and cheer them on. Thanks, Coach.
Yep, thank you.